Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is going to be an interesting day. The world is changing radically, and it's not always the case. By next April, you'll understand. What's happening right now has been set in motion long ago, and there are many elements of what's changing that we can't affect. I would say one of the greatest challenges of a spiritual awakening is learning to cope with how much you see and recognize and intuit. There's an intrinsic awareness that we have more choice in these processes than we may think. And that comes at a cost because people misinterpret it greatly. I noticed trending timelines, is on the rise. Now, look, this is critical in the big picture, but in the smaller picture, I think it would be more valuable for you to simply think about what you can change and what you can't. Not give it esoteric meaning, not make it too dramatic for the moment. And be present with the fact that there's a chaos that's already emerging. I give pause because many areas of the world have been in this for quite a long time. And it's both naive and insulting to pretend otherwise when the equilibrium of those of us who've been blessed with peace gets shaken. But the reality is that there's a core stability that has been present that is essentially evaporating. And as it evaporates, you might want to learn how to handle it. Water is life. I want to make clear, I'm selling you something. I'm selling you a dream. I'm selling you a belief. That's the most important thing that's happening. And it is not a manipulation. I've dedicated my life to learning what I've learned, and some of it comes at a direct cost. You either work or you pay money. And if you don't, it won't work. I've tried giving everything away. It doesn't really function. So you can serve through your efforts and your joy. And in many cases, that's the greatest gift you could give. Or you can buy courses and sessions. We want to support you as a wellspring of life itself, as the unity of spirit and finance and education and hospital, as an inroads, as an influx of the influence of the future being present now. We are a living presence of what will work in the future. And as you tune with this, you stay true. You stay true. And that reveals the path ahead. This is the way. It might sound vague at first, but be present with how simple this is. Your vibration is magnetizing the choices and opportunities, even the direction you look on the street. When I'm in tune with myself, I live in my hometown, believe it or not. And believe me, no prophet is ever accepted in their hometown. It's comic in its way, keeps me humble. When I walk down the street, I hold the intention that I'm only going to engage with people who are ready to be with me. Now, I didn't used to hold these intentions, and I used to manifest chaos as I walked around. And I suppose my ego got off on that a little bit. It was my only way of sort of demonstrating that I was real in a community that didn't know how to see it. But that was childish. So eventually I got over it and I said, I'm only willing to engage with people who are ready to see me. And that's what happens now. I don't even look in the directions that people pass by. And I know I pass people by frequently, but I don't watch for what I won't be with. And this is a metaphor. In the future that has begun, you need to be able to tune into health. And as you tune into health, make no mistake, you are tuning into the divine presence on this earth. Now, this divine presence has many faces, and these aren't vague faces. These are beings that are arguably more real than you and I. Many of them are known by name. Most of them aren't. Most of them live in service to this earth and different schools, rays of existence on this earth. They're here. They've always been here. They were here before humans were here. They care about this place. They cherish this place. For all intents and purposes, we're involved in a grand party that they host. And if you want to tune in with them now, you need to make commitments. You need to make commitments. And if you don't know how to do that yet, be aware of who you are and put yourself in this. You're checking out which college you're going to go to. Think of it in this way. This is Thoth's temple right here. This is Thoth's house. I am beyond honored to bring this to you. And I want to be clear. They tell me to sell what they are giving me. And that sounds ironic, and it has felt ironic to me. They give it to me, and they're like, you worked. And I did. I worked hard to get to this point, and I worked hard to build a bridge with them. You want to make use of this bridge, you're going to work too. The people who last around here are working hard. And the first way you work is with your body, mind, spirit connection. You build a practice. So in building this practice, you are working with us. You're sharing something that empowers a connection, a psychic, spiritual connection to bridge the gap between this world that's falling apart and the world that's emerging. And make no mistake, the unique version that is Thoth's presence here. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Let's say some hellos. By the way, thank you for the likes. Much appreciated. Thank you for the donation. I am truly grateful. Bless you, Tom. Sam, it's good to see you. I'm so glad to see you. I've been feeling you recently, and I'm glad to have you right here. Emiliano, bless your heart. Emiliano just rewrote the welcome message for the sanctuary so helpfully. He's been invaluable lately, helping me to understand how to appreciate what I'm doing more, what we're creating together more. Truly awesome human being. Thank you for being here. Matuz, bless your soul. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us. Claudia, so good to have you here. Angie, good morning. Thank you, Angie. Tom, bless your soul. Sarah, thank you. Thank you for being here with your incredible spirit. Corey, much love. So good to have you here. Corey is building a food forest. It is awesome to stay in tune with him. He's in the sanctuary. He tells us about it. We share our lives together in this way. And I have to tell you, I do not regret when I started YouTube, I quit Facebook. No insults intended out there in the world, but it was one of the best choices I ever made to focus myself and focus what I feed myself in spiritual nutrition. I want to be with those who are creating the kind of lives that I believe in. And being surrounded by all the people I've loved for all my life, bless your living souls. I want to care more. I want to be more present in so many ways, but it fries my mind to hear about everyone's anniversary, everyone's vacation, everyone's beautiful outfit, everyone's beautiful meal. Hey, if it's all out of tune with each other, it's like being pulled apart, right? And when we're creating something in coherence together, it's like a conscious place where the fire ceremony and the yoga class and the dinner are all prepared in a harmony where they feed each other. And that's a crucial metaphor that I encourage you to explore within your own life. Natalie, bless you for being here. Thank you. Well, that means you can last. Natalie, I will speak to you when I say, Thoth taught me one lesson. When he pulled me, and he let me drown for a while. First of all, he made me work for years to get to him. Then he let me drown for a while when it worked and I unleashed extraordinary powers within myself. And he let me feel it. And then after several months, he introduced me to one lesson. It's called the key ring. I encourage you to explore it. It's linked in the main channel, Chakras in the Key Ring. There's a 3-minute meditation. Memorize it. It's what he gave me. I want you all to have this. It changes your consciousness dramatically and quickly. It can work in 3 minutes. It can work in 1 minute on many phenomena. It detunes you from being ensnared, entrained by forces that aren't right for you, and retunes you to Thoth's temple itself. It's the path back to him. It takes more work than that to keep it open long term. But the 3 minute version alone is a gift. I invite you to go and explore it and learn it. Dylan, thank you for being here. Pan, my goodness. It is quite a coincidence. Thank you for being here. Magdalene, bless your soul. Fair geek, fair. Oh, Fergicus. Bless you, Fergus. I imagine that's you. Well, I'm so glad you're here. First light. Oh my goodness, that little rays breaking over the horizon before the dawn. That's where we are. Quite a name, quite an ownership. Thank you for being here. Jace, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely. And I think increasingly people are going to be more intentional. So I'm going to do just a little riff and then I'm going to tell you a story. The internet just came into being 25 years ago. My college work study job was to hook professors up to the internet for the first time. And it was 1995 and it blew them away. It was a really exciting role to play. So I was literally plugging them in to this thing that I could tell by that point was going to change everybody's lives. And the first thing I do every time was be like, what's your area of expertise? And I'd look up something on the internet about their field. And immediately they saw something that was relevant to them. And it was awesome to watch how it changed them, to immediately register, whoa, this is a big thing. And being a part of that, I think, was part of my sacred spiritual journey. And as a result of being there early, I was seeing way into the future. And within a couple of years, I left a full-time job and started up an internet consulting business. And we were making web pages, but we were also teaching businesses how to think with the internet as part of their reality. And I enjoyed using this. It took 100, I really pause. I want you to be in this, because if you are interested in participating in our community, we're not just saying come in. You gotta work to tune into it, and this is a critical threshold. And I so want you to be a part of it. You just got to be a part of it, if you get my drift. It took 150 years for the novel Don Quixote to be written. Now, before the printing, it took 150 years after the invention of the printing press for the novel Don Quixote to be written. Don Quixote is arguably the first novel, meaning a story that was written as, it had a purpose, it had an intention, but it was a story that someone wrote that was in their head. It was a story given to people to in many ways, be entertained, to drive their imagination. Now, up until that point, people didn't write stuff down unless there was a clear sense that it would be broadly needed. People were writing down, 10 copies of something, and they were being carefully spread to people who could read. And then those people were people who would be able to share them with 100 people. We're talking mostly the Bible and like Aristotle, things that were obviously worth spreading are the only thing that you would spend handwriting a copy over and over again. When there was not a possibility of easily printing 1,000 copies of something, people didn't know how to imagine a form of art that was that indulgent, in a sense. You didn't imagine reading for 10 days as a joyride. That was not what the art of reading was, because the technology didn't exist to facilitate that kind of imagination. Now, I want you to think about what this means. Until you can imagine something, until you can imagine the structures that hold space for something, you can't even conceive its existence. It took 150 years from the invention of the printing press until someone was able to conceive of a novel. We don't have a clue how much the internet changes us yet, because we're still puttering around in old metaphors. The people with money grew up on the Marvel comic books before they were cartoons. The people with money are paying to have their fucking comic books turned into higher budget movies. Why do you think that's the only thing that's getting created? Why do you think they keep recreating the same stories? Because those are the people who have the strengths. The people who know how to imagine have to let go of everything to look deeply into what's possible. Are you willing to do that with us? I want you to understand the kind of medicine I bring. My parents live 3 miles up the hill from where I live. I live on the flat of a town at the base of a lake. It's a very special place, Ithaca, New York. Considered sacred to many. It was a sacred region well before people with this skin color showed up. I lived here then. When I got home from years and years of traveling, I still couldn't drive. I don't drive. My vision's too poor. I walk everywhere. So I walk up the hill to visit my parents from this house. And when my son turned 3, COVID was just starting. So it seemed reasonable to teach him how to walk up the hill. My 3-year-old son learned to walk 3 miles up the hill. I remember the first time we got close to my sister's house, and she lives near where we all grew up. And my poor little son, he lay down on the bike trail and he said, "Daddy, I just need to take a break." But he was on the trail. And bless his heart, like, it was at a point where people were so terrified in this region. This is a very academically heady place. Nobody was going outside. Like, no one was going outside. And so we were walking all the way 3 miles up these beautiful paths, and we didn't see anybody the whole way. And my poor son lay down on the path. And then he got up and we went on and we made some treats and had a good time at my sister's house. I let go of everything to learn this stuff. And I carry this kind of medicine, and it's raw medicine because I don't have much patience with people who complain about what to me are minor difficulties along the way. Now, don't get me wrong. I have the deepest of compassion for your suffering, and I believe in you. I believe in your power to move through it. And I believe in your power to match exactly whatever your challenge is. Exactly whatever your challenge is. Divine presence will bring you to what you need to be. Your challenge is here. You're living here. You got to get here. And divine presence will do it. But you got to fight for it. Now, make no mistake, fight and light sound similar for a very clear reason. We have been taught to fight someone else. This is tragic, sad, and spiritually immature. You don't ultimately fight someone else. You fight yourself. You fight the darkness within yourself. And when you fight the darkness within yourself and know that's what you're fighting, you transmute it. There's no negotiating this. I'm not going to do it for you. I can do it for you temporarily. I could relieve you of your trauma and your fear, and you can't pay me to do it. Nope, it's not my job. A lot of people out there will do that. You can pay them to take away your trauma and your fear for a little while, but it doesn't really do you a service. What does it do? It teaches you to pay someone else to take away your trauma and your fear. But you're still making it every day. You can't get rid of the roots. You can only get rid of what grows in your life. So you have to keep cutting it and giving it to them, cutting it and giving it to them, and you have to pay them. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Or you could be racist and dump it on someone with darker skin because it's dark energy. So obviously they deserve it, right? That's a much more normal pattern than you may think. It's the roots of racism. Or you could be powerful in some sense and shit on the people who work for you. Every day, treat them badly, justify it because they have to change for you. You don't want these outlets. You could make enough money to fuck a prostitute. You could do that. Temporarily gets rid of it. It only lasts about a month at best. I don't encourage you. It creates other karma that is, in many ways, far worse. So what I'm telling you, as I warned you, is I bring raw medicine. My son was walking up the hill. He's 7 now. We were walking up the hill to my parents' house. It's kind of natural for him at this point. It's beautiful. We get to walk up. The first mile of it is up a stone path next to waterfalls. It's gorgeous. Pun intended. Gorgeous. So we're walking up the waterfall and he starts asking me about some stories. And I told him one that it means so much to me. And I'm going to tell this with raw ego in a sense, because I have a hidden ego about this that I need to process, and I need to process it by being it. I am proud of how deep I went when no one was watching. It was hard. It was very difficult. And I knew that someone was watching. Thoth. Now, it wasn't always Thoth. I interacted with many guides. He's the one that stayed in a certain sense. And the commitment they asked of me was stop caring about what people think of you completely. And that was really difficult. So at one point, I was working on a farm and I realized it was the wrong place to be. First of all, the first thing that clued me in was the fridge for workers was packed with moldy food, like packed. And we were putting our food in the front of this fridge full of moldy food, but we weren't allowed to throw the other food away because somebody was going to get mad. We didn't know who. It was all vague, but don't touch the other food. But it was rotten. Then the pot that we were trimming on this farm was super moldy. Like it was like gross. And they just told us to keep cutting it. Now, look, this was at a point where for 4.5, 5 years, I had been practically refusing all forms of money entirely. I would accept gifts occasionally when I was broken, but I was really trying to survive on manifesting from pure spirit. This is like, I'd gotten good at manifesting. I wanted to get even better. Like just give me the things I need. It worked enough. Well, in this case, I was taking a job and then I'm like, look at this. Like, this is ridiculous. So I got paid $500 for whatever, a week's work. And I left. I had to walk 14 miles down a hill with all my stuff. And I'm walking down the hill and I was sad. But, I felt true to myself and I'd done this a lot. And about 5 miles down the hill, I get picked up. It was raining. I got picked up by the fire chief. He drove me to a town. I stayed in that town and I didn't know what to do. So I went and sat where I saw people. It was a bar. A woman talked to me for a while, bought me a drink, invited me back to her hotel room. It didn't feel right. So I said no. I didn't have any place to go though. So I went and I slept. I found a nook behind a bush. It started to rain. So then I went and found a doorway. And I cried. That broke me. That broke me. It was hard. In the morning, a cop roused me because I was in the doorway. He was kind enough. I moved on. It wasn't raining anymore. I went to a park, met some people. They told me about a cool tree. So we went and camped in the woods for 5 days. At the end of those days, we walked down the hill. My shoes were falling apart. And somebody just looks at me and looks at the ground and says, "You want some shoes?" And I'm like, "I'm back." And they were great boots. I had them for years. I ended up breaking ice with them so thoroughly that they fell apart. But good boots, good boots. I got a ride. Got a ride to another place. And then I got an invitation from a friend to help them move in LA. I'm getting a buildup. It matters what I'm trying to tell you here. So I go to San Francisco from Northern California, and I'm going to get a ride. I'm going to get a bus down to LA or train. But then my friend writes me at the last minute and says, "We're not there yet. You can't come yet. We're going to be another couple days." I didn't have anywhere to stay. The person who gave me a ride said I could stay in their car for a couple days. So I did. And I would stay in the car, and then I would get up and I found a place I could like wash off my face. And I found a cafe where I had $60. So I'd buy a coffee and hang out there for hours. They had an open mic. So I came back in the evening and performed at the open mic, but nothing worked. Nothing was clicking. And then after a couple of days, the person who'd give me a ride said I couldn't stay in their car anymore. And I got scared because my friend wasn't back yet. So I walked to the park and I did what I often did. I didn't know what to do, so I meditated. I meditated till my legs were cramped. Then I did some yoga. Then I meditated some more. I went through my bag. I emptied everything in the bag and I just looked at it and I'm like, what do I really need? And I made a pile of all the things that I didn't really need. And I put them in a nice place with a little free card that said free. And then I packed up everything else and I went down to City Hall. I got to City Hall and I didn't know what to do. So I started meditating. We're closer. This matters. I was scared. So I prayed. And I heard a voice. And it felt true. It's hard to explain, but you can tune in. If you sense a presence, always ask. And I remembered Michael's presence sort of saying, yes, trust this. And the voice said, follow me. And it led me very clearly 5 blocks in one direction. And then it said, right here. And I looked to the left and there's this perfect nook in a nice brownstone neighborhood, but a perfect nook, not visible from any angle other than very straight. It was empty. It was clean. Like perfect. I lay down my yoga mat and I slept on the yoga mat. I remember someone standing out on the porch with the light on, and I felt their presence protective. Woke up in the morning. You wake up early in the morning if you sleep outside in a city. People are moving, So I got up early. I packed up everything and I just sat and I meditated. And then I felt go back to City Hall. So I did. I spent hours there doing my thing. There were people clipping the trees, trimming the trees, a long row of trees. I hated that. I hate electric implements. It's not that I hate them intrinsically. It's just that it's so easy to kill shit when it's that easy to kill shit. So I was unsettled, but I walked away and I wandered until I found an Indian place that had a lunch deal. And I had $55 at this point, something like that. And they had $11 for a lunch and it was a big meal. So I got that and I cleaned up in the bathroom. And they have, I would say generically on my travels, Indians knew how to see me for what I was trying to be. I was trying to be a yogic sadhu, which has a real nobility and respect. People in India have an understanding and appreciation that people who live on the edge and commit themselves to spiritual focus are a blessing to everybody. So I was treated with real respect there. I mean, it wasn't, they didn't like roll out a carpet or something, but I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like I was being seen through judgmental eyes. Like I was scruffy and scary and is he going to rob me? which I had to deal with plenty then. I went back and they were still trimming the trees. I decided to sing. And I started doing handstand practices against the trees. And like I would try to see how long I could stand on one hand while a foot was braced on the other on the tree. The day ended, they left. I went back and I slept in the same place. The next day, same thing. Only this time I went straight to the trees and I sat by the trees. This long row of trees leading to City Hall in the most liberal city in the world, right? And they're trimming, they're getting closer, closer. Finally, this guy comes up to me kindly. He's like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry to have to do this, but I'm really going to have to ask you to move." And I wasn't stupid, you know, like I'm like, I fought for things, but I wasn't going to be the crazy person for no reason, for no fruit. And I could tell there was nothing I was going to be able to do to stop this process. But I just look at him and I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "They cut the trees every year. It makes them really sick. They want them to look the same." I spent 6 years without money to learn that lesson. Almost 6. The first year I had a very low paying job. I earned that raw vision into how wrong the world is, how wrong modern society is. It is hard to keep your faith when you know this is true. And I would suggest that there's a reason you're here. These words touch you. You know this is true, but it's hard to keep the faith because we fail by measures that are impressed upon us. When your measures are not your measures, when you are measured by forces that are not yours, it is hard to figure out what part of your mind is yours and what part has been impressed upon you. The practices that we share are designed to help you keep yourself. My practices carried me through years of stuff like that. I slept under a tree. I slept behind a truck in the cold, and it's a van, and it had 7 blankets. I could count them. 7 blankets, and I was cold. But the thing is, a guy who'd given me a hitchhiking ride had offered me his blanket, and I didn't feel right taking it, and I was cold that night. I slept in a mansion for months. Room, private bathroom. All I had to do was do yoga in the lobby, teach people sometimes, and work on renovating the bathroom. The guy hit on my girlfriend, so we left. I slept in an incredible cabin in the woods for months. I slept in a shared community house for months. I slept in a room in a yoga center for months. I had some of the most beautiful experiences. I slept in a truck by a river, by the ocean, on a farm. But the thing is, I accepted what came. When I didn't get connected to my friend, I knew there was a lesson for me. And the key in so many of these instances in how to survive when things go crazy is to not allow yourself to be undermined by the potential to get emotional over how life changes. I could have gotten mad at my friend for letting me down. Instead, I said, what is it that I need to see? What is it that I need to learn? What is here for me to experience? And by shifting my attention before anything happened, I tuned in to one of the most incredible lessons of my life. And I was okay. Those meals at that Indian restaurant I had three days in a row. They were good food. You don't need, go out to a restaurant. How often do you just finish it and feel like, oh, that was perfect? No, you feel stuffed. They serve too much food in the United States. And then they throw it away. One meal a day. One meal a day. During that time, a woman asked me to get condoms. Can't imagine why. I remember going to a drugstore and buying a neti pot and going, look at that. I just bought a neti pot with the same money I might have bought condoms with. Choices. The choices you make on how to focus will keep you alive. And I got the blessing in many respects of learning these lessons at a time when America was in greater abundance. I had food stamps for much of this time. I didn't have them then. But for a couple of years of those 10 years, it was, the government was encouraging us to get food stamps. It was safe. I got threatened repeatedly, but I never got treated violently. The future that we're looking at, much more complicated than that. The second hurricane's about to hit Florida. It's not going to stop until Florida's underwater. Now, I opened this passage by introducing a theme that I believe is boggling people's minds. We awaken spiritually and we start to recognize how much influence we have over reality, and we mistake our influence. So on one level, people are taught to be fatalistic. On another level, people believe you can keep the ice from melting and the oceans from rising just through positive intention. It's like when I say this, I'm being a buzzkill. The faucet in Greenland is on. It's pouring and nothing's going to stop it. If you don't think ahead, why? Why? And what happens? If you look at what happened during Hurricane, I am trying to scare you because I want you to sharpen up. The reason people get suicidal and manic depressive in modern society, wealthy communities, is because you don't know what fucking life is. I was healed by living on the edge. Now, I am not encouraging you to copy me, but I'm encouraging you to realize that life sharpens when things matter. So make things matter for a good reason. Get your hands on the ground. Get your feet on the ground. Sit on the cement. Buy a sandwich and sit on the sidewalk and eat it. And ignore everyone's judgment that you're a bit of a what? Anyone who would judge you needs to learn to eat their own thoughts. Touch the ground with your hands. That's what yoga does for you. Now do yoga outside. Now do yoga on the cement. Now consider participating in creating your own food. I worked on farms. I wasn't often on the street. Those moments are poignant. I worked on organic vegetable farms. I made Christmas tree wreaths. I farmed ginger and lettuce in exchange for a place to stay. To participate in taking care of yourself reclaims your mind, restores your presence. And when you do these things now, when you can choose to, you will be more capable of tuning when the world gets a little crazier. Last year, we couldn't even go outside for, I forget how long, 2 weeks, because there was so much smoke in the air in northern New York. Shit's already going crazy. Now, there is no purpose in living in extraordinary fear, but there's also no purpose in sticking your hand in a burning fire until you know how to commune with the fire. When you learn to tune into health, you know where to look and where to step. And the future will increasingly look like patches of health and chaos. And you have to know how to recognize where something is dangerous and where something is healthy. Now I'm going to do these. There are way too many people talking way too soon about their spiritual awakenings on YouTube. And I encourage you to raise that as a question. I do not want you to fight for no purpose, but there are way too many people who should keep their mouths shut because you have not learned how to handle this yet. And telling us the new meditation you had for the first time when you had a spiritual awakening 2 years ago, your lessons aren't going to translate. The only reason you're okay is because you're getting revenue from an audience listening to you on YouTube. Your audience cannot copy that. And yes, I'm talking to you, young lady. Your audience cannot copy your model because you are making money off people listening to you. This is not a pyramid scheme. You need to teach people survival skills for how to handle their spiritual awakenings. I do not appreciate needing to struggle with folks over this, but you need to hear it. Who are you going to listen to? Who are you listening to? Who's going to help you step through these fires? I have no ego in this. I've been told to fight for myself now because I'm almost done creating the teacher training. For the past 2 years, we've been creating a teacher training. I need to keep my mind still. I haven't been pushing for shit except finishing this because it's sacred. This is the best knowledge I've got. A couple of years before that, I wrote a book. It took me about 7 years to write. It's not even very long. I was trying to write a book that if I had one book to hand someone, it would be the best thing I could give you. And it's available. Check it out through the website, the Chakra Keys. I don't make shit. There are color images in there that help you tune in. I make $1 a book. I'm not trying to make money off you on that one. I'm trying to give you the best medicine on the fucking planet. And it is. Because if you know how to take care of yourself before you get sick, you won't get sick. And if you know how to keep your spirit clear and strong, your body follows. You know the caduceus? Watch this. There's a video that I made about the caduceus. I'm forgetting what I called it. It's the staff of Hermes. It's an energy field. Hermes is the god, the guide of medicine. Hermes is Thoth. Modern society has lost an awareness of medicine. It's almost impossible to comprehend that it's possible. When you immerse yourself in being present with energy, you learn to sense it on a regular basis. But I remember what it felt like when I first learned to feel my heart. It was like the most astonishing, miraculous experience I could conceive of. For months, I was like, oh my God, it still works. Holy shit, I feel it. And then I would watch it change. And then I started to recognize my gut a little and my throat. It was miraculous to learn to sense energy. It was utterly transformational. And I did. To my discredit, I tried to tell everybody about it. I would have been one of these young characters making a YouTube channel, but YouTube didn't exist yet. So blessedly, it didn't work. And the world made me shut up and learn before I started trying to talk again. The feeling of energy enables you to tune into energy and keep yourself more coherent. And as you know how to stay in touch with your own feelings when you're in the presence of other forces, you can navigate through those other forces without devolving in chaos. Did I tell you about the time that I sang for about an hour in a cop station and they let me and my girlfriend go? I sang in the station. They just stared. It was hilarious. Hippie chants. To stay coherent, to stay with your coherence in the face of tidal waves, just forces sweeping over you, telling you to feel this way or that way or this way or that way. Anyone who's moderately empathic knows how to tune into the presence of a strong feeling. You go to a concert, you know how to tune into it. But if you can't also detune, you're just not doing the work. Make no mistake, I have zero patience for people who are like, well, I'm empathic. You need to protect me. I'm a wilting flower. Look, shut up. Learn. I know you don't want harsh medicine in this moment. I'm not telling you to fling yourself at everything, but recognize this is not an intrinsic state. This is a lack of skill. This is a lack of skill. If you behave like everyone is supposed to adjust around you because you're so susceptible to them, what are you doing? You are slightly more aware than other people. You cannot ask them to adjust for you. You need to own your presence. You need to own your presence. And there's no way other than some kind of consistency to your life that builds strength. And one of the best ways to do that is a spiritual practice. Now, make no mistake, plenty of forms of athletics do accomplish much of this, but their lack of spiritual integration, in many ways, quite terrible. The brilliance of a healthy, sort of Americanized yoga is that you can have everything from a sweaty power to a deep subtlety. And you need all of these elements in order to tune into energy. And it's your ability to tune into, make no mistake, there's a threshold here. When you tune into energy, you wrap your attention with the energy and you create an entrainment. You know this word? It's a good word. You entrain with the energy and you're fueling it. So this is what we see is magnified. When you know how to focus on a vibrancy in your heart, you can magnify that vibrancy. And when you know how to identify the presence of a negative vibration, you can learn to hold it in check. But you have to have a place to go. That's what a spiritual practice offers you. That's what a spiritual practice offers you. Yes, I am selling you this. I've put my entire life into creating it. It's good. Courses, wildflowerfire.com. Check it out. Ask us questions. There's lots of other support services. Now come deeper, because the future needs you. I have not just been called to hawk something. I wanted to be a part of creating a system that would enable you to take care of other people. And that's what we've been creating for the past 2 years. The training takes 2 years. 2 years, but you can take it in chunks and you can take pauses. There's been spaces built in for some pauses. Once you're done, you can do individual sessions and guide groups in yoga and meditation. And the meditation is not just meditation, it's meditation designed to tune you into yourself and figure out what's going on. Because we are all composed of this spiritual presence of the past. You think you are you, right? You are the presence of the way you experienced your past, which is basically stories. But stories are energy, and energy is present. And the absurdity is the things you remember, right? Tell me about college. Tell me about grade school. Tell me about your first job. You remember slivers. Why do you remember what you remember? Well, the fact of the matter is you might not know. And so developing the skill to look into what you've retained of the past and to question it is actually changing your energy, because you're carrying these stories. They're not back there. They're right here. And if you retain this as if it's fact, you grossly misunderstand your own power. You are misusing your power. Almost everyone is. Because we tell ourselves stories, we tell ourselves that they're fact, we reassert them until they have some momentum. Once they have momentum, they seem to be more present. And then they're here. They're here. They're a part of your body. People die slowly in great pain, and they call it by names like da-da and da-da. What do they call it? These are all configurations of consciousness. These diseases are configurations of consciousness designed around stories that people told to avoid emotions, to hide from truths. Find me someone with any number of a list of diseases who doesn't exhibit a similar list of spiritual choices and emotional retention patterns. But we don't look at this shit. You know who taught me this? Thoth. And you know what he's been telling me this week? Most humbling fucking thing ever. He said, why won't you stand up for me? I have not wanted to fight. I like it, and I don't like liking fighting, if that makes sense. I considered it anathema to what I knew of as a spiritual journey. And what he's telling me this week is it was anathema to learning. The vibration of this gets in the way of learning what I needed to learn. And now it's time. We are living in absurd layers of cultural lies. It's not a they. Don't do this to yourself. I encourage you to just go with me on this. Try this out. I'm going to create space first. Dramatic. This is a wild ride, isn't it? Dramatic. I'm going to create space to invite you to try something. Don't watch any YouTube video that refers to they. Like, just don't do it. It's complete bullshit. It's a complete projection by a group of people who don't believe in the divine presence. You can know it from that much information because they are projecting a sense of overt, overarching power on individuals who are simply numb representative of old lies. They don't know the full breadth of the world. They don't know the full breadth of their own influence. And you don't need to be subjected to their power. You can live under their power. You can live in relation to their power if you want to. If this brings you stability, more power to you. But please, because you can also step right around such things. If you don't participate, you won't have any charge there and you'll be attracted to other opportunities. And this is the core lesson of today. I'm going to need to take a yoga break. I've waited a bit too long for it, to be honest. In a second, I'm going to take a yoga break. I'm working on a challenge. I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm working on a challenge that I lost, but I did this. My wife spent 3 days giving labor to my son. 3 days. Her water broke and 3 days later, and she did it at home. And we spent a lot of time down here and did yoga. And I did this over and over and over again. I stayed with her. We slept hardly at all for 3 days. And this is what I did to activate myself and my spine. And then we had our son, and I probably got fat and lazy, which is not true. I wasn't lazy. I was exhausted. I didn't sleep, and I didn't know how to handle the responsibility of being a father. So I ate, and I gained 20 pounds. And I'm only getting my health back over the past couple of years. But this is what I did. And I was supposed to do this halfway through, but this has been so charged. So what I'm inviting you to do is to identify an area of challenge and integrate this into your practice because you need strength. You need fierce strength and you need strength amidst flexibility. This is what unlocks a lot of consciousness. And more importantly, when you can embody certain levels of difficulty, you actually tune your consciousness out of range of a lot of people. It's incredible. Just kick yourself up on a handstand against the wall and you will detune from most of the people around you because people don't do that. So as soon as you do that, you're free in your head a little bit. It's an incredible power. This is the one I'm working on. Buy yourself a neti pot. Get the joke. I love you people. Thank you for being here. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to take care of yourself for your own sake, for your family's sake, and for the world's sake. We need to do this. We need to step it up. And I want you to be aware of what it takes. The fact of the matter is everybody has a different challenge, but our relationships to our challenge have a lot of commonalities. Whatever your challenge is, there's an art to matching your challenge. Okay? And there's an experience of learning how to trust that divinity will meet you where you need to be. Not lower. Divinity will meet you where you need to be. It's a beautiful thing. Gene, thank you for being here. Exactly. And stacking shit on top of shit is what people tend to do. This is what our culture is designed around. Why do you think things go like this now? People are distracting themselves from the underlying present. Now, in the United States and Canada and Latin America, in a slightly different story, what people have done is they've avoided the group karma of the nations. One of the first things you need to do is learn the name of the Native Americans who lived in the region where you are. If you're in the North America, learn the name. If you don't know that, start there. Now find who's still there, who knows something of the language. I'm not shoving you. I'm telling you to be aware that there's karma. There's group karma that's influencing you. And you can separate it out by taking responsibility for it. And you know, one of the things that'll happen, you'll stop finding sugar and mainstream movies appealing because they're designed to distract you from the root pains that none of us escape. That's what they're doing. Like these Marvel movies, they're made by executives who are 80 years old. That's who said okay to that shit. Okay? And I call it shit because it's not giving you something that you need. There's goodness woven through, but graduate from it, please, because the world needs you to be a presence that can keep your light on. I'm about to tell you something very important. The world needs you to be a presence that can keep your light on in the face of darkness that's confusing and even terrifying. And let me tell you, in all those years of traveling, I had several bad experiences, and they always happened after I made stupid emotional mistakes. Let my anger get carried away. Let anger drive decisions. Let fear drive decisions. It amplifies. When you make a decision based in fear or anger, then whatever you've created is staked in shit. Even if you cool it down, it's just staked in frozen shit. That's not a strong foundation. And that's what we're doing mentally. We have a foundation based in frozen shit. And when I tell you to look at the shit, I'm sorry it's a buzzkill. But I'm telling you, this is some of the deepest medicine I could give you. Because in North America in particular, there's something I want you to learn this name. It's called the white intellectual disease. It's the belief that the intellectual mind can be bigger than everything. Can't. It can't. It cannot. Sometimes things will make sense to the intellectual mind later, but you're not going to get an explanation yet. You have to unite faith with spirit, with body, and learn to move in the rhythm of health. And the rhythm is there. Your lungs and your heart are trying to show you a healthier rhythm. The reason you're not doing it is because they will force you to confront the things that hurt. The lies you tell yourself about your family members, your dearest friends, your communities. They will force you to watch as the trees outside your house get cut for the fucking wires because we're too cheap to figure out how to put those wires under the roads. Some communities do that. We decide to cut all the damn trees, and they're sick. And then those trees are sick right in front of your house. And it makes you sick. It makes you sick. It's going to be more like this. So bear in mind, this is my job. I do appreciate being unleashed, which is what it feels like. And I waited until Thoth told me to. I love you, and it's a tough love, and it will remain that. Thank you for being here. I invite you to explore the links in the description in the website. Please feel free to ask questions. I invite you to come visit us now. We're going to meet in a live Google Meet. It is on the Sanctuary page. So yes, it's designed as a welcome to consider joining the Sanctuary, which is a membership space. But this is a free link. Come visit, click yes. We're sharing a meditation and a little bit of an after party. Thank you. Thank you for your time, your love, your heart. 20 years from now, people will appreciate that your time is the most valuable thing you have to give. And I'm honored that you've shared it with us today. Much love. Be with you and your family